This episode of Heroes of the Horn is brought to you by Sir Jimmy of the Fantasy Network.
At least they won't find us huddling on the floor and weeping. She tried to make her voice firm. We can fight, Leanne. As long as we are alive, we can fight. Oh, Light, they stilled me. They stilled me.
Welcome to Heroes of the Horn, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. Welcome to our Wheel of Time book club. The horn has sounded, and we have answered the call. Today we are covering The Shadow Rising Part 7, Chapters 41 through 49. And in our Village Council, we will be discussing the Ruby Dagger.
Is that what
Is
it's
it a
called?
Ruby Dagger? It's got a ruby on it, right?
I don't know. As we do have a guest here today, it is Sir Jimmy.
Yeah.
Happy to be here, gentlemen. Wow, what an honor to be on a full episode of Heroes of the Horn, my preferred way of experiencing Wheel of Time.
Sir Jimmy is here. He was going to fill in for me because I have Winter's Heart. Tell me about it, okay?
Holy smoke. We're not there yet, man.
We're not there yet. That is the book title, right? Winter's Heart,
yes,
I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have no idea what's in that book, except that it's called Winter's Heart. But, man, winter has come here in Portland. My gosh. 600,000 people without power. Big, massive ice storm. One obviously hit Houston as well. It's really bad down there, too. Anyway, so I didn't have power for 8 days. So that's why this episode is delayed. Jimmy was going to fill in for me. And I got it back like a day ago. So we're just like, hey, you're still on the show. Let's do it. And that is where we are at with that, man. I mean, I needed Rand to come down here. Some of those girls, because talk about one power, we had no power. So I mean, come on, man.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was worried about Sir Matt for a time there, and so I sounded the horn to Sir Jimmy, and he replied with the grave is no bar, right, to your call, and I said, all right, man, all right. That's what I'm talking about. So, but no, yeah, we do have Sir Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, YouTuber. Go check him out. We actually did a video. I think we were talking Game of Thrones. Wheel of Time. Where am I at, right? Which podcast am I on? We're talking about Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time. The shows, we did some YouTube content. So if you hadn't had a chance, go over and check out our YouTube. Go check him out. We got links and everything for him in the description of this podcast and over there on that YouTube video. But it is nice. I think it's going to be nice to have a third voice in here kind of talking about these batches of chapters, because boy, did we got quite a bit to talk about in these chapters. There's tons to talk about.
Yes, you are correct, man. Just a big block of chapters. So many big things happen in this block of chapters. But before we get to that, if we want to talk about something big that happened this past week, we now have our official first piece of footage from the show, and that is the Ruby Dagger. So, WoTonPrime, their Twitter account, has been releasing little snippets along the way, right? We got to see Emmons Field with that little, line from Tom. We got to see Tom's guitar. We've seen the Heron Mark blade. We've seen some concept art. And now we have our first piece of actual footage, which is, I'm presuming, Matt grabbing the dagger in Shadar Logoth. So what do you guys think? What did you think about it? Did it look like how you've kind of envisioned it? As we start with you, what did you think about seeing that?
Well, yeah, I was blown away. It's been about the same length as the audio teaser we got, and a couple of the things with Tom and the kind of the reel with the guitar and things. So same length, very short. Let's make a deal. And it looks cool. It was cool to hear Matt's voice. That's Matt's voice, right? I mean, so I really liked it. I was kind of shocked that dropped. I mean, obviously I want more, but I mean, it looks cool. It looks like well lit, well done. I mean, ominous, very ominous, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a big deal. I really like it. Jimmy, what'd you think?
So, when I made my way through Eye of the World, when I'm going on this journey, with the crew from the farm, from Edmonds Field, it's just, there's so many good examples of things that I want to see adapted, right? Like things that I pictured in my head. I'm like, I can't wait to see that on screen. And I feel like the very first big moment was this. I was like, I could see this playing out on screen. To get just a little clip of this is so exciting, no matter how short it is, because with the clips building and the teasers and whatnot, feels like we're building to something very big, very special. And I thought even just the stone structure that we saw was excellent, right? I think that even the styling of it, the lighting, it all just feels like has, meticulous details thought of. And that is so important when you're adapting something that people just love. And for this to be one of the scenes that I was looking, forward to the most when we come to the first book, I was very excited. It's the most excited I've ever been about a 14-second video ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, right, he finds the dagger. It's in a box. It looks gold. I'm assuming just from the picture, and it's got that ruby in it, and that ruby's kind of bright almost, which is kind of which is kind of cool. But I think we can imagine the show's obviously going to have its own spin on it, but again, we've talked about this where we think this will take place. I think I'm leaning a little more. I think we were both kind of saying this is probably episode 2, Shatter Logoth. I think roughly seems like. Because I think episode 1, going with some of the titles we have, the Trolloc attack, they leave. I think and then that means we'd probably hit Shatter Logoth about episode 2. So you can just imagine Matt, right, finding this dagger and then the world of trouble we're about to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting? So since we're on that point, I have been thinking, and I saw the clip. And we did a few YouTube videos on how we think we're going to, tackle the Eye of the World in season 1. But after seeing that, I really rethought this. And I think, you might spend a lot more time there than I realized. If you're going to make a big set in this big ominous place and you're trying to get away from, like, they might actually spend some time there talking about, the power or the wheel, or like Moraine could tell them a few things. I mean, maybe just more than what we get in the book. And I thought, like even build up before the boys kind of sneak off and they get the dagger. Yeah. There's some stuff going on before, some storytelling, getting to know the characters, just more. And why not? You got the set, you're making it, you're building up to be this really big moment, and it's going to be one of the things that really sticks in our mind. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be more significant than I thought. We had the concept art, right? We saw that concept art where, they're kind of walking through. Looks like Shatter Logoth, right? It's got the Mashadar, kind of the fog moving through, and looks pretty scary. So it's a big moment. It's a really big moment. I mean, it's big in the books. I guess when we were going over initially, Matt, I was thinking, all right, yeah, it'll be an episode or whatever. There might be more to it. Yeah. Like one episode, we might end getting there, spend a whole episode there, and then pick up there even in the beginning of a third episode, getting out, right. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I the way I'm kind of envisioning it is, so episode 1, Trollocs attack, and we leave, right? They have to leave. And so I'm thinking maybe episode 2, this is kind of my thought, is episode 2 is, it starts with them, they're on the road, and clearly they've been on the road. It starts off, but you can kind of tell they've been on the road for a bit. We find ourselves in Shatter Logoth. We're going to sit down. We're going to rest. What was that? Like, what was the Trolloc attack? Like, and then Moraine will finally start to give some answers. And then you're kind of there, and they're kind of camping out, like, don't go too far.
Right.
You got to stay together, kind of a thing. And then Matt's off doing who knows what. And then he finds it. And then I think probably it's probably them escaping is probably the rest of the episodes, action packed. Okay, it's them running, escaping. Like, you could totally change the way a lot of it happens to make it more adaptable for TV. Think like Harry Potter, right? I mean, Harry Potter, The Goblet of Fire, the movie, whereas like, a big portion of the movie, which is this whole book, is Harry versus the dragon, right? I mean, that's a scene that in the book it's like a chapter, but in the movie it's one big massive scene right in the middle, action packed, keep everybody involved, because you need that in television. You need to expand a lot of action scenes to kind of emphasize points. So I think that's probably what's going to happen here. So I'm with you. It's either I think episode 2, but it could maybe be episode 3. Maybe episode 2 we're just on the road. A lot of it's on the road, and then we get there, or maybe we are there for more than an episode, as you say.
I'm just it stuck out to me that it's going to be we're going to spend a good amount of time there. I don't know, Jimmy. What are you thinking? Like timing wise, like
Yeah, I think episode. I'm kind of with you, Matt. I think episode 2 makes the most sense, and I think it's a fairly safe assumption that we'd be spending an entire episode there. I do feel like what we saw there with Matt taking the blade. Just knowing what happens in the books, I wonder if that's how an episode will end, and then we'll pick up the next week with figuring out why that's a bad thing, right? So maybe we get like a full episode there, or at least getting there, and then we see them, coming into the conflict and then leaving Shadow Logoth then. So I think it's safe to say at least an episode there.
Yeah. Mordeth?
Yeah.
I was waiting for, I was watching that. I was like, are we gonna pan up and see him, just greedily, like looking like, take the dagger. I mean,
Maybe
I could feel him. I could feel him right around, hovering around, moving around. Let's make a deal. I mean, you could sense it. Like, it was just cool. Everything about that little tiny clip, knowing who is standing right in that room is kind of a big deal. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So
hey, leave us some comments, shoot us an email, let us know what you guys think about it, because it might be a while before we see some more footage. So
yeah.
And as with that, I guess I do have kind of another question here, just since we're kind of on the topic. Now, typically when movie studios or whatever, they're very protective of the content until they're like, hey, we want you to see this, right? They usually make people wait. Amazon is going about this slightly different in that they're kind of stringing us along. Like, it feels like they're really kind of providing people with content. Do you think that's because of obviously the restrictions of COVID, and they were planning on this being out a lot? I mean, obviously we know they were, but I mean, are we going to see this year? Do you think they're putting this out like ASAP? Or do you think they've still got a set plan in motion, and they're like, we need to kind of keep people's interest? I mean, do you find it odd the way they're showing us this? I mean, this feels like a lot more than we'd normally get from other people.
Yeah. Well, here's a thought. Sir Jimmy and I were talking the other day about this show. We were talking about the show, and I was going to say it. I'm going to go ahead and say it. So Jimmy said to me, I don't know if you said it or if I said it or who said it first, and I feel bad that we're even going to say this on the show, but like, I don't want the show to be rushed. I don't want it to be, and I worry about the impact of COVID and all these different things. They just had the guy who was writing the score. I don't know if he left or was fired. I'm not really sure, but like, that was some news not too long ago. I'll just say this, and then Jimmy, this is on you, man, because you brought this up and you planted this seed in my mind. But you said, "What if the show flops?" And I was like, I can't take that. It will not. In my mind, it will not flop. But I think the only reason we said that is because, Matt, what you're saying is like, why is why are they going about it this way? Why are they marketing it this way and running a book club and things like that? Is it just to stall, to keep people interested? Do they need more time to make it better, to perfect it and things like that? They obviously are still working on it, but I don't know. Jimmy.
So I'm actually going to counter a bit what I said. And I actually think COVID is the reason why we're getting these. I mean, they're odd, if we're being honest. I do think these teasers, like for the way they're revealing the information, kind of like Matt said, it's a lot. And it does feel a little bit awkward. But I think that they know that they have something special here. And obviously COVID has thrown a wrench in the plans. Now you guys might be more up to date with on this than I am, but I believe I heard that they were going to be resuming filming in like March, April. Is that correct? Because they had like a COVID outbreak on the set. So I had heard that they had shot all the way up to episode 5 or 6. Now, so if that's the truth, I mean, it is very feasible that we could have a show in the fall. But what they don't want to do is drop a trailer right now, get all the buzz, and then by the fall it kind of falls to the wayside, because fall is a big season for television, right? So it could get a little bit lost in the scuffle, I think. But I assume the best, and I assume that they are just trying to keep people interested, giving us a little bit more each time. Even though they are very small, but to buy time because of COVID. I really do think. And obviously, in April, we don't know if this thing internationally is going to be under wraps. We don't know what's going to happen. We really just don't know what's going to happen. So they're probably trying to play their cards as close to their chest as possible as far as making big, bold moves with promo material. And you know what? If the show flops, we just keep reading.
That's what I'm talking about. That's you have an amazing book series that whatever interest is generated and gets new readers into it, I'm all for. I don't think it's going. I mean, obviously, we just said that and we were kind of, I thought
we're just spitballing.
Because no one wants it to. No one wants that. I mean, like Amazon, I think they put so much money into these things and there's so much passion. And Rafe Judkins is really passionate about this project. You can hear that in the Twitter kind of threads that he puts out, and the caution, he said something interesting. He didn't want us to see Moraine until we saw like Moraine on set with post-production, see her in her full kind of, the way she's meant to be seen. So none of this behind the scenes leaked photo stuff. He's not a fan of that, and I'm not really either. I mean, it's cool to see a couple things, but actually, our actual characters, I did see one image of Rand, and I was like, all right, it's cool, but I think like Moraine, I want to see Moraine step out and be an Aes Sedai. And Lan,
I want to see Lan and Tom Maryland. I want to see in his full coat, fully decked out. Yeah,
with the score.
I mean, it's just interesting the way that they're releasing this stuff. And I am worried a little bit just because of COVID. And to see, look at what a lot of these movie studios and everything are struggling with. Just a couple examples of other times in which shows or things have been kind of derailed by just what's happening in the real world. Do you guys remember the show Heroes?
Yeah, huge hit.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. Season 1 of that show was like, amazing. It was huge.
It was as big as Lost.
It was huge. And then there was a big writer strike that happened. And in fact, actually, if you go back and you look, I can't remember what year it was. Probably 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. A lot of shows have shortened seasons that year.
Yeah,
and it completely derailed that show because it was season 2 of that show. It wasn't as good, and it was less episodes and everything. And I mean, season 1 of that show was phenomenal. There's a big writer's strike, and it affected a lot of things. Another thing is right now with COVID, there's a show that I watched like the first 5 seasons. And my girlfriend, I got her into it, and then she's plowed through, and that's a show called The Blacklist. Has James Spader. It's on NBC. It's good. It's a good show. It's kind of like a crime thriller. And anyway, so their season finale, they were in the midst of shooting it, and COVID happened. And this is like early COVID, right? So people are like, we don't know what to do. And what they ended up doing, it's an interesting episode. is they said, well, like we still wanted to finish the episode and we thought we could put it all together. So they actually used the footage that they had, and then the actors all did voice work from their house, and they kind of did the rest of the episode in a comic book style. It's a really interesting episode of the show, and they actually have a little bit in the first 5 minutes just explaining it, because this is when COVID hit. It's like March of 2020. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen. Everything's shutting down. We're all scared. We're all like, nobody knows what's going on. And so that's just how they did it. They said, we wanted, if we wanted to finish the season, it's just, use your imagination is what it is. And I mean, it works. The episode works. It's like half of it's animated, and half of it's live action, and just is what it is. But again, it was impacted by COVID. And then you have some other things that have been filmed, like there's a lot of big movies that are just sitting there.
Dune.
Dune, the James Bond movie, No Time to Die. It was supposed to come out in April of 2020. You're talking a big, mega movie. And they said, well, we're going to push it back to November because who knows what's going on with COVID. And now they said, no, we're holding off because you have Disney has released some things on Disney Plus. HBO Max is saying, hey, we're just going to release things on our streaming service, pick up money there. Yeah. Amazon is in slightly a different kind of category just because they're not releasing these in theaters, and they're releasing it to a service that I think most people own because of the free shipping. I kind of view Amazon movies as like icing on top.
Yeah, they just throw it in the bundle. They're like, here you go.
Right. It's part of the package. There's really not that many shows until Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings, which is coming up. I mean, there's good shows. But I don't know that I would go get Amazon Prime to watch them. Maybe until now. So I just find it interesting. I wonder if it's like we need to keep kind of the buzz going, because you're really targeting a specific audience of people that kind of know that this exists. I think we've all kind of had this conversation in which we've said, we feel like right now we're talking about Wheel of Time before, like back in 2010 about talking to Game of Thrones. Like all the hardcore book guys are like, you guys don't understand, it's going to be so good. And they don't know what it is yet. But it's coming. And then we're like a year from now, everyone's going to be talking Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Oh gosh. It's exciting. It's something that, I don't know, man. I'm still a little bit nervous about all of it, because you bring up that, like, what if they stopped filming, we had to move it around, do we change a set location, that kind of stuff. It does make you worry a little bit, and I just hope that.
Yeah. Do you think I mean, had COVID not happened, I mean, they were filming in like March of last year.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd probably be out like right now?
March, spring,
a year from maybe April of last year. I think you would have done a Comic-Con panel, a Super Bowl trailer, and then you release it February, March.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think it would right around now, within the 2-month frame, probably we would have been seeing episode 1 of Wheel of Time. Wow. Which is crazy. I just wonder how much production was done remotely during COVID for those first 6 episodes. Is that how it works, or did they want to wait to everything shot? Like to, yeah, I just don't know.
I remember Rafe saying something about being like the benefit of being in the writer's room, and then they continued writing, they continued revising and things like that. And I saw the same thing from some of the showrunners for Payne and McKay for the Lord of the Rings show, who were kind of saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and write season 2. I mean, they went ahead and said, let's move forward with it. So I think it could have helped. You know what I mean? It's such an uncertainty, and you hear things like the Blacklist story. I mean, I didn't know that, and Matt, now I'm like, well,
that's a piece of, that's television history. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, if you do a Google search for it, but when you just as we're talking here, and just take a look at it, and you'll just be like, oh, well, it's just interesting that they did that, because I feel you think about these actors and stuff, and it's like, well, I mean, they. I'm not saying like, oh, they don't make millions of dollars or whatever, but I mean, that is that's their work, and that's what they do. But it's not just them. I mean, it's like the set people and all this stuff, and it's I mean, like the cameraman and the guy. I mean, it's still people, like the whole production of it, and for a lot of these, it's like big projects. I mean, you want to put like your name out there on this thing, and then with the production going forward, I mean, it's hard to schedule actors because they're constantly flying around and doing these things. And look at how many movie projects you'll so often you'll hear about, like, oh, they're in development of a movie. And then like that movie doesn't even come out for like 7 years because like somebody was like, you had to wait for this person to finish, and this person. I mean, I remember hearing about the Abraham Lincoln movie in like, it was like 2000, it was like 2007 or something, and then it didn't even come out until like 2014, 2012. It's like wow, I heard about that years ago. Like, this Wheel of Time, they like Sony, right? Because it's Amazon and Sony are the ones doing it. And it was like 2017 was when they said, hey, let's get this thing kind of going, and now we're in 2021. So,
and no one ever thought it could be done. And I think that, I mean, there is an immense amount of pressure with a fandom this devoted and this involved with the series, and then it also just in general being a tall task for anybody to adapt. But if anyone can do it, I think it's Rafe Judkins. Just everything I've heard, read, seen, I just feel like he's the right person to do this show. So I am optimistic. It is fun to play the What If game for sure, and especially with you add all that, and then you add COVID on top, and it's if it pulls it off, I mean, it's hats off to him and the rest of the people with the show. So
yeah, absolutely. I thought you were gonna throw in remember when Dan and Dave were killing it with Game of Thrones?
Wow.
I thought you were gonna go there. I was like, well, don't you dare.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, real quick, by the way, I like Rafe Judkins, this guy. I was like, I don't really know who this guy is. Like, I mean, I had to go look him up. He was a contestant on Survivor.
I did not know this. I did not know this.
He started out kind of as a contestant on Survivor, and then somehow like turned that into he got a job. He got a job doing he wanted to get into screenwriting, and so hey, I've been on TV. And I had to really go look what else he's been involved with, because I was like, I don't really know this guy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, every interview I've seen since, I'm talking about Wheel of Time, it's just like hearing him and stuff like that. It seems good. He did some work on Chuck. And then he began writing for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, that's a big time, big time. I mean, the big time thing. So, pretty cool, really. It's just like, it was just interesting. I was like, wow, it's just not, I did not really know that until I really kind of looked into him.
And he has a passion, huge passion for the series. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's so important.
Now again, but we'll have to cut this up and put this on Twitter. Did Rafe win Survivor?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry.
Survivor. It was season 11 of Survivor.
That was a good season.
Like I remember. I don't know. I remember like the first two. I remember like the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then which was in Guatemala.
Beautiful Guatemala.
So let's see here. How far did he go in Survivor? He was the 16th member voted out of
is that good?
18. So I mean, he made it pretty far.
So he was in there for a while. All right. He's a survivor.
That's
right.
16th
of 18. I mean, he almost won.
It sounds like he likes a challenge.
Yeah.
Well,
he's got a big one right in front of him right now.
I hate to make another connection, but Dan and Dave didn't make it all the way to the end either. So I mean, I'm teasing. I've actually been a big defender of those guys. So everyone can calm down with all the hate mail. All right.
But somebody that was on the show with him, this girl Brianna Varela is from Edmond, Washington. Sounds like Emmond.
Or Edmonds.
Is it connected? Okay.
Yeah, it's all connected. Oh, jeez.
7 degrees of Edmondsfield.
Wow.
Edmondsfield.
Edmonds.
Yes. Yeah. Edmonds.
Say it right.
Edmonds.
Say it how it's spelled.
Edman Landragorans Field.
Oh gosh, Lude Theron. All right. There we go. All right. Anything else? I mean,
I think that's it, man. Let's dive into the read.
All right.
So this week, guys, we are talking chapters 41 through 49. And wow, Ez's been teasing it. He's been saying big stuff's gonna happen. And then he's like, oh, I guess maybe that's the next block. Maybe that's the next block. Well, it's here.
It is here.
So here we go. Chapter 41 is Among the Tuathawan. Chapter 42, A Missing Leaf. Chapter 43, Care for the Living. 44, The Breaking Storm. 45, The Tinker's Sword. That was a good chapter. I like that one.
Yeah.
Chapter 46, Veils. 47, The Truth of a Viewing. 48, An Offer Refused. And 49, Cold Rocks Hold. So this block, I will say the first half, kind of the majority of it, very Perrin heavy. So last time we were with Perrin, we were in Edmondsfield, and there's Trollocs attacking, right? I mean, he's gearing up for these Trolloc attacks, and he's being kind of viewed differently with the people of Emmonsfield, beginning to call him Perrin Yellow Eyes, and view him as sort of this hero, this great hero. And I forget the guy's name, but who is it that's asking Perrin so many questions? It's not in chapter 41, but he's asking him so many questions. Yeah, and he's like, did you do this? Did you see this? Have you talked to the king? What was this like? And Perrin's like, oh my god, man, like leave me. And then finally Fael steps in, and she's like, okay. He's
right, kind of fanboyed or something like that. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
He's a big deal.
He's a big deal.
Yes, he's no slouch, as we say. He's no slouch.
He is no slouch. So let's go back just a little bit here. 41. So that's kind of the context of what's going on with Perrin and where we're at. And remember, the White Cloaks are after him. So Perrin heads towards the camp of the Tuathawan to spend the night there. The Aiel decide that they will sleep elsewhere and take off before they get to the camp. When the weary and wounded men approach the camp, they are greeted by the Seeker, a man named Rain. Perrin has met Rain, right? Not Rain.
I think it is Rain. I think it's Rain. They say in the book audiobook they say Rain. Yeah,
Rain. Yes, you're
or
right.
Rayan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rayan. Yeah. Perrin has met him before, and he remembers the ritual. Most of the people in his band are surprised about that. Isla, Rain's wife, comes to greet him as well. She wants to know if Elias is with them, but Perrin hasn't seen him in a long time. Isla notices Perrin has and a lot of his men are hurt, and arranges for their wounds to be tended. Perrin has to be helped off his horse by Ivan. He warns Rain that he should move to Emmonsfield so he'll be safe from the Trollocs, but he refuses. He will move his people tomorrow. Traveling is safety for the Tinker. So that's kind of what I think that's a good place to kind of start, because Perrin is worried about them, and he's saying, I think you should come with me. And some of them gasp, and they're like, what? We don't stay in towns. We're fearful of towns.
Yep.
And yeah, it's interesting. In a way, I'm reading this and I'm thinking, well, they're all gonna die. Yeah. Because to me it sounds like Noah's Ark, right? Like, hey guys, it's the flood's coming, you need to get on there. Whatever. And then here you go. I mean, that's what that was, just here,
2 by 2,
that's
baby.
kind of what I'm thinking. 2 by 2, seriously. And Perrin is saying, guys, it's if you don't come with me, it's going to be bad. You need to. And so it's really cool. And as we talked about that, another chapter coming up, the Tinker's Sword, there starts to be a little division in the Tinkers, and some pressure building, and ends up with Aram, a character we haven't seen in a while, taking up a sword and saying, I have my right to defend myself. Not the way of the leaf.
Yeah,
right.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jimmy. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking. So from Matt, obviously, his first time reading. This was my first time reading as well. When I read it a few months back, and it just makes me feel very indifferent about whether they are like. Maybe indifference not the right word, but it makes me like ponder the fact that the Tinkers are such a die hard to their beliefs people, right? So are they stupid or are they brave? Like when you think of the Tinkers, do you find that to be like noble of them, or do you find it to be stupid? Because I kind of lean back and forth. Like I see where Aram's coming from, but I also see where, his mom's coming from and saying, this is not the way of our people. And it's just one of those things like, are you willing to be willfully murdered and not raise a fist? It's just, that noble?
That's what Perrin deals with. I mean, it's something when he first meets them, and Elias is trying to explain to him that this is their way.
Yeah.
It just does not make sense to Perrin. Perrin has yet to make his first kill in defense of the wolves and things at that time when they had met the Tinkers. And now you see him struggle with the axe and the hammer. I think that's one of the things, right? You're talking about like which way do you want to go in life, and what do you need at this time, and what would you rather be though, and how do those kind of conflict? Like what's needed now? The Taviran are needed. What they want might be different, but what is needed is for Perrin to be here in the Two Rivers and to defend these people. Now remember, he's hit with a poison. I mean, barbed arrow of some kind, right? He's wounded right now, and they got to get him back. But the Tuatha'an are they don't want to be in a town. They don't want to be anywhere near this violence. But it's like, I would go with the people who are fighting for the light versus you're going to be left out. We're telling you there are shadow spawn running wild through here, and they will kill you. It's more, you're going to save more of your people and their mission and their quest to find and seek the song by going to a town and risking maybe some of the young ones getting caught up in town life or getting caught up in another way versus all of you being killed.
Yeah, right. It's a lesser of two evils, right? And I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a big difference between also I think probably their mindset has been in the past, not that this is explicitly said or anything, but it's if you have two warring nations, then it's like, okay, well, we don't want to get caught in the middle of this by choosing a side that we may agree or disagree with. This is literally saying, hey, there's Trollocs out there. Trollocs do not choose sides between, right?
It's not a difference of opinion.
Yeah, it's not like, well, the Trollocs are, I mean, it's not like you have two warring nations. Well, is this side right? Is this side right? And
kill or be
we
killed.
Can find exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're talking. It would be like no different of saying, hey, there's just using this as an example, not that it's the pun or anything, but like, hey, it's like, hey, saying, hey, there's a big pack of dangerous wolves out there that are attacking people in the forest. I don't think if you travel with us, we have swords. We will protect you from like these wolves, these whatever animals are out there. So it's no different than something like that. But even still, they kind of refuse. So, Jimmy, I'm with you though. I do think, I think in some cases it depends on the situation, because I think that there is a difference of sticking to your guns and just being stubborn. And believing in a set of virtues to say, no, this is the right way. And then sometimes you're just stubborn, stubborn about something.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the downsides to each, and it's whether all of your people are massacred, and then your way that you believe in does not go on, or you risk losing some of the young ones to town influence, but you save all of their lives, and then your movement continues to go on, which is why I think we see them make the right choice, right, and end up kind of going.
Yeah.
But I do want to comment and just say, like, as you said, talking about the hammer, right? The hammer or the sword, I think it was. It's really excellent writing here by Robert Jordan, because he gave us an internal conflict within Perrin and was able to kind of reinvestigate that and reimagine it all the way through multiple books. And the way he brings up that internal conflict now within the Tinkers and then Perrin watching it, it's just like really masterful, because a lot of times writers will give you an internal conflict, they'll think about it, they'll move on, or they only see it through one lens, which is themselves. Right. Robert Jordan does an excellent job of letting the pieces of the world that he's done, such rich world building with and cultures, and it continues that internal conflict, right? So really good work. I like
really good point, because Aram is someone who we're going to see here in a little bit, as Matt said, the Tinker with the sword, who is, we start to look at that and we say, that is what Perrin could have. I mean, he could have gone. It really tears him up. Like Perrin's way of life wasn't, such a drastic shift. To him, he had heard of war. It wasn't maybe a day would come when he would have to kill someone or pick up a sword or an axe or whatever. But for Aram, that was never an option. Never. And so you can see how he goes from one extreme to another extreme and how that can really, it's going to tear him up essentially. I want to make one more connection too. So the city of Rudian, which was mentioned earlier in this book, we were there. It's the city of the Tirangrial. Interestingly, the Aiel, as they were moving close to this group of people, the Tinkers, the Tuatha'an, those who follow the way of the Leaf, the Aiel that we have now, they don't know the events that have gone on with Ran in the Waste and what has happened and what Ran has seen. He's seen the visions of Rudian. He knows what happened to the Aiel people. He knows who they once used to be, and that the Tuatha'an are this offshoot kind of branch that they used to belong to. They're related in some way, and that they represent kind of what they as Deshane Aiel used to be. So they're leaving. We now know, if we're paying close attention, like, whoa, why won't they camp next to the Tuatha'an, right? What's going on with that? So I thought that was interesting, and then just you see, you actually see in the visions of Rudian how much the belief system, because there are people who are absolutely slaughtered and murdered, children taken and different things, and like at one point the larger faction were the Tinkers or the Deshane Aiel or the true kind of Aiel people, right? And then the people who picked up a sword at first and then a spear split off, and they are now the predominant Aiel group that we know. And it's dwindled down to just a few who are traveling, seeking. It's interesting. It's just really kind of interesting. But you can see what happened to them, and we already know because of the visions of Rudian that could happen to this group of people. And now Perrin's saying, "Please come with me," and so we're like, "Yeah, I would listen. I would."
Yeah, listen. That's actually an excellent point. Really good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of the rest of the chapter, right? So remember, parents been injured, and Fael is trying to kind of tend to his wounds, and we learn something big about Fael, and just a little bit that she's not just somebody out hunting for the horn, but we find out that Fael's father is Lord Davram Bashir, right? Who is a general to the Queen of Saldeia, amongst a few other things. And she tells him that, she, of why she kind of ran off to search for the horn. She kind of finds being like a noble daughter. It's just, she's not really the kind of the life for her, right?
Right.
And then she also used the L word with Perrin.
But what is that word, Matt?
That would be love. So we get that, and that she loves Perrin.
A falcon after my own heart. Let's go.
Oh my.
Let's go. So, and then she kind of tricks Perrin into drinking some tea, and he passes out. But Lord Davram Bashir.
Yeah, no, this is interesting because I mean, was she lying? Is she what is she hiding the truth? What's going on here? But no, she's about to say the L word, and so now it's time to come clean. Now I'm really, once you realize, look, this guy, I mean, I have these feelings for him, things that, before I mean, she's not going to reveal her identity beforehand, right? She's just, she's on the run. I mean, she wants to stay. She didn't like the life that she was living there. So Davram Bashir, the Marshal General of Saldeia. I think his full title is Davram of House Bashir, Lord Bashir, Sindonia, Guardian of Blight Border, Defender of Heartland, Marshal General to Queen Tenobia. I mean, it's just,
that's absurd.
It's crazy. So, but cool character and more. This is kind of a read and find out situation. How big of a deal is that guy? So, and we will have to read and find out. But It is cool because she is a hunter of the horn, and so that was awesome. We like her. We like her charisma. We like her personality, and she's having a good time with Bane and Jihad, and she's convincing Loyal to take her through the Waygate. She's staying close to Perrin. She's helping him, and Perrin went through a really rough. The last episode we were talking about the loss of his family. She's seeing all of this. At the end, she's really convincing him that I know my father. I know like you're gonna be well liked. She's seeing him. It's almost like she needed more than a blacksmith. Not so sure. I mean, she knows that at his core, that's who he is, right? He's this blacksmith, but he's also a blacksmith that could lead a host into battle. Okay,
right. That comes up.
So
and that will come up. So let's move over to 42, a missing leaf. So Perrin finds himself in an empty Tinker camp. He knows it for a wolf dream, and knowing he won't wake up soon, he decides to make the best of it. His scouts land towards Devonride and sees mainly abandoned farms. Some still show signs of habitation, and a few others have been burnt. Then Perrin spots a group of ravens near the Mountains of Mist. A group eating the ground, eating strides he can take in the wolf dream, take him there quickly. He finds himself at the site of the Manetheren Waygate, and it appears to be open again. Trollocs are still pouring into the two rivers. He gets the feeling he's being watched and jumps out of the way just in time to avoid an arrow Slayer shot at him. Perrin pursues him finally gets a clear shot. He waits too long to take it, and Slayer leaps off again. Perrin follows him again and finds himself in a forest. Slayer talks to him, but Perrin can't find him. Slayer says Perrin's tricks killed many of the shadow rot, but that the gate is open again. Perrin's presence in the two rivers is an unexpected bonus for Slayer, one that has made him decide to bring many more Trollocs. Perrin senses the danger he is in, and he decides to step out of the wolf dream. He is still drugged, so he has to step into another dream, one featuring Fail at this time.
Featuring, yes. Fail. I'm serious. I mean, it's
one way to put it.
It's a good dream. Yeah. It's a good dream. They're in love. They're in love, friends. So, wow, Slayer. What are your guys' thoughts? Let me just ask, because again, this is the whole point of this podcast is to get the reactions or whatever. What are you feeling initially about this guy? The predictions can be outlandish. I don't care what they are.
I'll go ahead and say it.
Go ahead and say it.
I think he's Luke.
You think
I've been saying it because I think that Luke is. I think that I don't trust this Luke guy.
Really?
And I think that it's Celine all over again.
Didn't you say Luke was what you said? You said Luke was something.
I said last time I think Luke's probably a Forsaken because we've already seen it. We've seen that. Oh, Celine, the second Celine walked on the stage. Go back to the episode. What did I say? I said I don't trust her. She knows too much. There's something odd about her. Everyone's like falling over her. She's so beautiful, and it's like, oh, well, it's clearly something's up with Celine. Oh, and she turns out to be Lanfear, a Forsaken. So here comes this guy Luke, and Perrin's like, I don't trust him, and he seems to know things, and he seems to be like, oh, I gotta know what's going on here. Yeah,
right.
I'll go ahead and say it.
All right,
everyone's probably like, now people who are ahead are probably like, well, that isn't that obvious. Or Matt read ahead. Well, I haven't read ahead. I barely read to keep up. So I
know. It's like, hey, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to take the writing. You're supposed to look at it and say, you know what? What do I got a sneaky suspicion this guy
haven't
could
I
be...
seen this before?
Yeah, haven't I seen this before? Is this a pattern repeating itself? I mean, are there clues being laid here? And by the way, I mean, we don't have our sniffer anymore, but we do have Perrin who is sniffing on something here, right?
He says he's a pretty good sniffer in this block of chapters.
Yeah, he does.
That's right. I mean, I think we can all agree Slayer's a bit of a bastard. Not a fan. Yeah. I don't have too many thoughts on it. I don't want to speculate too much because I do have knowledge of the ending of this book and a little bit of book 5. But one thing I would like to say is I think this would be a really cool scene in the show. Right? Like in the wolf dream going around just missing and you're hearing a voice and Perrin's looking around in the woods, and you have just somebody whispering to him. I think this is going to be a really cool scene to see adapted on screen. I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, I've been wondering how they're going to actually. It'll be fascinating just to see the dream world. What are they going to do? Do you start off small? Does it look really dreamlike? And then over the course of the series, it becomes more and more real, and you step into it. Because every time, if you've noticed, these characters, they go in. Rand and Matt in the beginning, they're just having dreams, or is someone entering their dream, or are they going to a dream world? It's very you're unsure. And then Egwene, a dreamer, and then Perrin, and next thing you know, this world is just keeps kind of expanding. We learn more about it. So yeah, I'm with you. I really think it would be interesting to see how it looks on screen. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, the rest of this chapter, so Perrin wakes up from the dream, right? He wants to go into the Waygate to close it permanently. He's with the arrow still in him. Faye will have nothing of it, of course. When Perrin gets outside to talk, he talks to Ivan. The warder doesn't seem worried about the new threat. The mood in the camp is decidedly better than it was. The two Rivers men tell Perrin he missed something. The Tinker Woman danced for them. Perrin says he's seen that dance before. And Faye goes, what? Pretty much is how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And she says maybe if he's good, he'll show him a different kind of dance. So
wow.
okay,
whoa,
right.
I need to know more about this dance.
This is getting a little hot and heavy in here. When they get ready to leave, Perrin tries to convince Rain to move his people to Emmons Field again but the Tinker refuses. They kind of have, after the long goodbye ritual, the Trinkers, you're right, they prefer Perrin and his band head for Edmonds Field. The Aiel join them again, and Gall is upset to find out that Perrin overheard the two women suggesting they play Maiden's Kiss with him. So,
Yeah, what's that all about, right? I mean,
that is
Maiden's Kiss.
I will say this every time, and this is a total aside here, is every time I hear Maiden's Kiss, because we've, as you guys know, we also do a Game of Thrones podcast. Maiden's Kiss in that universe is something a little different. And every time I hear it, that's what I think of, and I'm just like, "Whoa, this book is."
We went mature all of a sudden.
Is like real serious. So, just I don't know. That's just always every time I hear it, I'm like, "Whoa." Anyway, so Perrin teases Fael a little with her offer to dance for him, even though he doesn't know what it is. But he thinks, maybe it's better than this Tinker dance I've seen. So probably. Yeah. So everybody goes, right. Everyone goes to Emmons Field. He's amazed at the changes in the town, right? The forest was pushed back a little bit, making it easier to defend. They've got a row of stakers that's planned around the village. There's sentries everywhere, looking a little bit more like they're ready for an attack, right? So Perrin, as he's coming in, right, he's hearing everyone call him Perrin Golden Eyes. And they have a banner for him, much
as
like
they
Rand.
should.
Much
as
like
they
Rand
should.
gets a banner. That's right.
Yeah, as they should. Yeah, I mean, he's been leading the people. I mean, they've needed someone to kind of get behind. Lord Luke was the guy, but he wasn't doing enough. Clearly, just
and he's
enough
missing.
And he's missing.
Yeah. Funny. I don't see Clark Kent and Superman in the same room. I don't see Bruce Wayne and Batman in the same room. I don't see Selene and Lanfear in the same room. I don't see Luke and Slayer in the same room. Man. Wow.
You're so sure of yourself. So sure of yourself.
I'm sure the people who've read along before me are like, Matt, it literally has no idea what he's talking about. Well, I'm reading it for the first time. I don't know.
Which is fine. I think it's great.
It's a raw take. It's good.
I love it. People have no idea how hard it is to sit over here and like try to keep somewhat of a, even expression
of a face that's like, Matt, you could not be more dead wrong.
It's so great. It's so great. No, you're right. Yeah. So we get back into Emmons Field. I'll take this away here. We hop into chapter 43, right? So care for the living. And
Varen's here, right?
Yeah. Varen shows back up, and we're headed up to the Wine Spring Inn. Perrin needs healing. And Varen is not actually that skilled. I believe they have to wait for Alana. I think that was one of the things like they needed. Yeah, she finally arrives, right, and is able to help out Perrin because it's it's too much, and the healing goes on. So that's interesting to think about, right? That it, not just because you're an Aes Sedai can you do anything and everything, that they're all equal. That's why you have different Ajas and you have different people with different gifts and talents and strengths.
Yeah.
So Moraine has a bit of the, I mean, she's a pretty good healer, but look at Varen. Nothing. Not much of anything. I mean, she really can't do much for Perrin. Yeah.
It's a really cool way to have fantastical powers in a book and then avoid the Superman syndrome.
Right, where you can't just cover everything. Yeah,
it's not a catch-all, and it makes you be more creative. It also makes different scenarios that our characters get into depending on the cast that's with them. It provides a lot of really unique writing opportunities for Robert Jordan. It's like one of my favorite things about the magic in this world.
Right, it's one of the things. It's kind of like in an odd way. It's one of the things I kind of like about, like, say, Marvel compared to DC. Like, DC is you have like 5 superheroes that all have like a bunch of powers, except Batman, who's just rich but he can do everything. And then like you have like or then you have Marvel on the other side, where you have like hundreds of characters. They all do kind of like one thing, so you kind of like need to bring people together, like the X-Men, right? They all have like one power pretty much, and then so they work together as a team. It is cool. I do like that. The Aes Sedai are basically the X-Men, is kind of the
You might be on something.
might be kind of an easy.
Do the Aes Sedai show up in WandaVision?
Who knows? Who knows?
Good Lord, here we go.
Maybe
the Marvel case.
But no. But I do like Varen. Varen is my brother Jeremy, who was our Aiel chief clan. He said that's like one of his favorite characters. So shout out there. But yeah, so Varen's here. Cool. So Perrin asked for Loyal, right? Yeah. And he's gonna ask Loyal
straight up.
Straight up, can we shut this thing down?
It needs shut down after what he saw. I mean, and what you find out is Loyal is unwilling. He didn't want to destroy or Waygate. It's not something that they want to do, but now he feels responsible. Loyal feels responsible. Parents trying to be, no, it's all my responsibility. I'm the leader here. Blah blah blah. Aiel's saying you can't do everything. Sit down, type of situation. Sometimes you need people to step up. You need. It's a team. It's actually a theme. If you pay attention to Robert Jordan's to the series, you notice that you have people who have tons of powers, but not one person can do it all.
That's right.
Or can he? As I see Matt looking over there, like, or can the dragon ride again?
Well, he
win sometime.
He couldn't bring somebody back from the dead.
That's true. He could not. He also could not be in the Two Rivers while he was
later.
Wow, maybe he can later.
Well, it's like I feel like Robert Jordan will be. He's like, from what I've seen so far, is like he'll show you something, and then like later down the line, he'll be like,
watch out.
Watch out.
Yeah, and I was wrong earlier, by the way. I was thinking of Will Alcine, who is the pretty boy kind of in the two. You were asking who's the kid who's like constantly talking to Perrin, and in this chapter, I always say his name wrong. Is it Finn? What's his name? Fingar is his last name. He's in the very first book.
Ewan.
Yeah, something like that.
Ewan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I forget.
Somebody will let you know. I'm sure.
Somebody will.
I'm sure they will. All right, let's go to chapter 44. So Perrin's getting healed at the end of 43. The Breaking Storm. So this is where definitely some things begin to happen, and then 45 is kind of like that big one for Perrin at least. So Perrin wakes up in one of the rooms in the Winespring Inn. Fael is with him, and by the looks of it, she spent the night in a chair near his bed. Fael makes it very clear Perrin needs to rest. So clear, in fact, that Perrin gets suspicious. He wants to know what she's hiding. After a bit of evading the question, she tells him Gall and Loyal were seen leaving Emond's Field at dawn. Perrin suspects Loyal wants to close the Waygate. He still thinks it is his responsibility, so he wants to get up to go with them. They can't be that far. He gets up, he dresses, tries to make his way downstairs, and Fael tries to stop him. And he's weaker than he wants to admit. He kind of stumbles and falls down. Marin Alvier, and this is actually I would say this little segment right here is really, I really appreciated it, right? Yeah. Because it's like inside of all of this madness, it's kind of cool to get It's a really good character development in the way that Robert Jordan writes it. I just really liked, right, where you have, Mr. Salvier kind of telling Fael, like, this is how you have to deal with this is how you have to deal with it, right?
Yes.
And there was actually a lot of it in this block. We'll get to some of it with Rand and Elaine, not that they're together, but Elaine kind of thinking about it when she's like getting dressed. She's like, is this, she's like thinking about like if she was having a conversation with Rand, and she's like, is this what you'd want me to wear, Rand? Stuff like that. It's just funny, and it's just like this one. It's like this like 2-sentence little segment inside of this like bigger thing, and she's just thinking about it. It is his world building and how he does build just like these small little character development things, which seems small, but they go a long way. Like inside of these things, he kind of weaves these in here, these little nuggets, really. And I do really appreciate that in his writing.
Yeah. So I that is a really cool point. I mean, because Fael has to come in and figure out how to deal with a Two Rivers man, and who would know better than Marin Alvear, who has had to deal with Two Rivers men the whole time. It's like a respect for culture. You're coming into a new place. Fael is realizing this. It's said numerous times that Two Rivers people are stubborn. There's a certain way in which you have to kind of handle them. So leave it to the women's circle to say, let's bring her in. Right. Let's show her. Let's teach her the ways. Let's show her
the ropes.
Yeah. And she does drastically kind of change, and all of a sudden, Perrin's like taken back, like, huh? What? Like all of a sudden, he's just kind of like, what? Like, and you're like, come on, is this really working? And it kind of is. So it's cool.
Yeah. No. So I did appreciate that. But basically, there's like a Trollocs. There's Trollocs outside. Right. I mean, it's not just, hey, Perrin, we need you to get up because our parents like, I want to get up because I need to go do some stuff. It's like, there's Trollocs outside. I need to get up. This is like really important.
Right.
So basically what happens is that the Trollocs are pretty easily defeated.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the question is why, and we will find out. And this kind of goes into the next chapter too. 45, the Tinker Sword. This is kind of a big actually I don't remember lengthwise, but I think something really and kind of important happens in this chapter. So guys, I mean, why? So the Trollocs attack and they're easily defeated, but what's the point of that?
Well, yeah, it's they're setting up something, aren't they? I mean, they're this is kind of who is also controlling the Trollocs. The Waygate is still open. Test the defenses. Maybe you do know that you can you get everybody in one spot, keep them right there, keep kind of checking those defenses and things. Yeah, and they're setting up for something, right?
Yeah, so, maybe it's not even just testing defenses. It could be a distraction. We're not sure. And we don't find out that answer in this group of chapters that we're doing for this part. So it's a nice little cliffhanger for us, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we do know that there was a raven spotted overhead.
Yes.
Right. That flies back. So it seems to me like it's scouting.
It
was more so a hey, all right, I'm gonna throw a little something at them, see what they can do, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and these people are tougher than they appear.
Right.
Yeah, because if you can break through, I mean, this should have been before defenses are set up and things. I think the Trollocs are kind of slow to kind of pick up on what's happening, how the defenses are being made. They've had no problem going onto a farm and killing, 20 some Abaras or whatever it was. Was it more than that? I mean, killed all.
How many Trollocs were sent to attack during Beltane, like chapter?
Ooh.
10 yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it was that many.
I don't think it was either. I want to say a score, maybe 2.
Yeah. But the point is, this should have been enough to maybe if they can break through. Everyone's kind of it. Remember, they cleared the wood. They cleared the wood so that they could see and give themselves time as the Trollocs were attacking. So they're right there. I mean, they're just out of sight and ready to kind of make a charge if that was successful. Also, the crazy thing is, too, the Murdraw are hiding back in there. The Fades are just sending, it's suicide mission. Send a couple of these guys in.
Fodder. Yeah,
done. So, but the big one, though, I think this chapter, right, your big takeaway is some of this. You bounce back. It's a conversation between Perrin and Jeffrey Bornhold, and Falma is brought up again. The Tinkers, Perrin, and his relationship with Aram and what's happening with the sword, right, is kind of the bigger thing here as we're setting the stage for all of this.
Right.
Get your defenses, get ready.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here, let me get to some of the summary just a little bit here. So Perrin gets to the other side of the village. He sees smoke in the distance, farms and fields burning, no doubt. The men guarding the old road seem excited, but not afraid. They try to tell him at once what happened. It takes Perrin a moment to figure out that they have been shooting at the remains of Rain's group of traveling people. He yells at the Tinkers, they can come out now. Nobody will harm them. When the Tinkers approach some of the two rivers, people object. Tinkers steal, and not just things. Children, too, as Daisy Conger puts it. Perrin will have none of that and asks if they want to leave those people to the Trollocs. Properly ashamed of themselves, the two rivers people let the Tinkers in. Perrin is shocked at how few there are left. Rain seems to be devastated, and Isla supports him. While Fail is distracted with getting the Tinkers settled, Perrin considers sneaking away after Loyal and Gaul. Before he has the chance, however, Master Luhan catches up with him, asking him to help him with a problem in the smithy. When Perrin straightens that out, there is another problem and another and another. It seems the two rivers people can't do anything without his leadership. Shortly after midday, Lord Luke rides into the village. He is mildly impressed with the victory in his own condescending way. Big surprise.
Yeah, big surprise.
And exhausted, Perrin rides back to the Wine Spring Inn. Again, more people bother him with things they should know perfectly well how to take care of, until Mistress Alvir chases them out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Perrin Yellow Eyes.
Yeah, he's the leader, and it's almost like they know what to do. He needs to tell them, you know what to do, go do it. And until he does that, they're thinking, I want to make sure, because this guy, I need his approval. We do know what to do. And before they wouldn't ask, before the village council and the women's circle, they had to debate it out, and we know best, you know best. And now everyone from both circles are kind of coming in. Let's check with Golden Eyes.
Yeah, he's coming in as a leader, but it makes me wonder, he has this plan to go off and maybe even it could be a suicide mission to go try to close the way gate, right?
Yeah.
So is it the Edmondsville people realizing Perrin's a leader, or is it the wheel weaving?
That's a great question. That's what I was going to ask. And I feel like this might be something that 2 to 3 books from now we'll find out was something involving a Taviran.
That's what I was thinking.
As Loyal says it, right? Right, because remember when Rand goes to that town and suddenly everyone gets married?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is it something like that? Because they do have some lines here later where they talk about maybe not necessarily Perrin being a king, but they look towards a king, right? And they talk a little bit about Perrin, actually, you have the opportunity here to bring this back. Think about what could happen if you bring sort of Emond's Field back into the fold, right?
Yeah.
Not with, is it Caemlyn?
Andor?
But with Andor, right? Yeah. To bring Two Rivers back into the seat with Andor.
Oh, yeah.
Because technically it does fall under that, but they haven't really,
right. They haven't paid taxes. They haven't
done anything. And it's imagine if you were to bring them back, what that could do, and the allies you could make down the road and stuff like that. So.
Yes, and actually, they haven't belonged for so long. They're so far out there that they need their own lead. When they need help,
that's part of the conversation too.
Right? Yeah. Where are the defense? Where are the men of Caemlyn, and what is Queen Morgaze doing? Right. Where are they at? There's no one here. They're under attack. They can't even get word out. The other surrounding villages know what's going on. The attacks have been less there, and they're focused on Emond's Field for some reason. So. I think they have a right to kind of look towards one of their own who's going to step up and lead them. Now, is that the wheel weaving? Is that Taviran? Is that whatever? Is it one and the same? Is it all the same? I don't know. Read and find out, right? But there's a couple more things in here that are pretty interesting.
Well, but we obviously need to talk about Aram.
Yeah, that's what I was going. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, so these the Tinkers come in, and you could see it on Rain's face that they are distraught because of the loss, and you can get, I think specifically someone very close to them was lost. I can't remember who it was, but he sees a sword in the common room of the Wine Spring Inn, and he picks it up, and Isla comes down and says, "No, Abraham. That is not our way. Put the sword down." It is kind of a, I mean, it'll break you. I mean, it's sort of like, because he's this, when you see him, when he's dancing with Egwene, and all this, his parents almost a little bit jealous, like, Egwene, they're having a good time, they're dancing, and these people seem to be so carefree, but don't they know what's going on? We've just been under attack. Trollocs are chasing us, but yet they're acting so in this way and living life to the full. It just seems so different, right? And then now you see that same young man walk into the Wine Spring Inn and pick up a sword.
Yeah, it's like in life when you see someone not taking something as serious as they should, and you're like, I wish they'd get their comeuppance, and then they get it, and then you feel bad, and you go, I know, there's always a little bit of empathy there, and it's kind of what this is, right?
Yeah, because
feel bad for him, and I mean, I like what Perrin says, about every man has the right to defend himself.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Yes, well. And the type of persecution that the Tinkers have faced is different. They do keep on the move. It keeps them safer. And they have kind of stayed out of some of these bigger conflicts and things like that. They're still harassed and harried by different groups and things. And abused in different ways, right? And so they've seen some of those hardships. But really, they avoid, I think, a lot of the major conflicts and major slaughter and things. And now they're caught up in something that is unavoidable. And for young Aram, it's the first time he's seen anything like this, I think. And he is just people you love and cared about, and you couldn't pick up a sword or anything to strike back and to defend your people. And he's torn by that. These were a group of people during the Age of Legends, which you've already seen in the visions of Rudian, who were respected, almost like sacred-like individuals that were servants to the servants. I mean, they were servants to Aes Sedai back during the Age of Legends. And so, but now that we know that too, and you look at how much respect there was for that way of life, and that it's just hard to see those people go through that and struggle with their own belief, but then also to see one of their own leave. It's something. But it's a moment for Perrin and Aram to, he has a right. He has the right. So
yeah. So okay, well, there's some other big stuff that's going on, right? This is everything that's going on, right? So he wants Perrin to kind of teach him, right, how to use it, and he doesn't really know because Perrin's like, I don't use a sword, but there is somebody here who does. Okay. And you should find him. And his name is Tam al'Thor. And at one point, Perrin sees Tam and he says, wow, that sword it's like this one little line.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and it's just like, wow, that sword looks good on him. It just looks like he goes with it. Much like we've been told with Rand many, many times that, wow, the sword just looks like it goes with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, the question still comes up. How is it that Tam al'Thor came across a Heron Mark blade?
Read and find out. I have learned to say that.
I mean, just right. I mean, obvious. Yeah. So
at least for
you're right.
We do know Tam al'Thor. We know Tam fought in some wars, and
he can use that sword. That Perrin knows that.
He can use some sword, and Tam's obviously lived some sort of secret life that we'll get more and more and more. We know obviously he at some point found Rand, and so
that's right. That's right. We do know that. And by the way, you think about all the other people in there, how much respect they have for Tam. You've got warders, you've got other great fighters that you could have sent him to, but you sent him to Tam. So
badass.
Let's go.
And
that's
pretty.
Go.
Yeah, gonna be cool to see him in the show.
Yeah, played by, I forget the guy's
Bruce
name,
Bolton.
Bruce Bolton from
Bruce
Game of
Bolton.
Thrones. It's gonna be so cool to see him as a good guy too. I'm so excited.
Yeah, not a vampire.
So, not a weird kind of creepy dude, but I'm so excited for it. Yeah, because Tam Althor is a boss, as
Sure
we
is.
say, right?
Yes.
As we say. So, okay. So some other things going on here is White Cloaks show up, and they are led by Dane Bornhold. So if you remember, Dane Bornhold is the father of Jeffrey Bornhold, who Perrin may have taken out. So that's going to cause some
allegedly.
issues.
Allegedly. Right. Child Bayar and his just like, accusations left and right.
Propaganda.
It's crazy. Taking something now, did Perrin strike at did Perrin kill White Cloaks? Yes, he did. He did.
Did they deserve it?
Sure did.
I mean, lives were at stake, and it seems like, they were pretty free with their swords and their aggressiveness and things like that. So yeah, it is what it is.
They don't even think that the Sean Chan are real. Said made up. I was like, what are you talking about?
I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole army landed, and the White Cloaks are saying no.
Now I'm starting to think that the White Cloaks are have just as much view over everything that's going on as the White Tower, which we'll get to here in a bit. I mean, we'll get to the White Tower and how great of a job they're doing.
My gosh.
God.
Cut the funding.
Oh my gosh.
So seriously, but
the
then got the funding. Seriously, stop the count. Okay, I mean, here we go.
Stop the still.
So, stop the stilling.
Seriously, stop the gentling. Stop the stilling.
Stop the stilling.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So then we know, right, that right. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. Bornhold is here. He's seeing all the dead Trollocs. He's not really impressed or whatever. Then he says Tarn Ferry was destroyed. But you know what? That means he was at Tarn Ferry, and I was told to never trust anybody from never trust a Tarn Ferry man. So
that's right. Don't trust him.
How can you believe anything that he says? Which leads us into the next little segment in which, look who's here, Lord Luke, and he says, "Hey, were you there with a man named Ordeith, or as we know him, Padon Fane?"
Yeah.
And then Perrin is surprised to know that they know each other. Geez, I wonder how this weird, random, odd guy, Lord Luke, happens to also know Ordeith or Padon Fane.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'll still say it. Ordeith, Mordeith, as I know you won't tell me, but how is there not a connection?
I read and find out.
You got to put down the fork and read. I heard a wise man say that once.
Seriously.
Actually, I mean, there are some things that I didn't even. Again, this is something that Sir Jimmy, I try to like. There's this dense. We got a dense book series. There are some things that we didn't hit on the podcast that maybe if we went back and looked at, we could make a few more assumptions.
Start to make
and
some
things.
Connections on.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're hitting this on a kind of a broad scale here. It'll be real clear as we continue. So. But yeah, this is very interesting with Padon Fane showing up and the White Cloaks, and what have they been doing this whole time? You're supposed to be out helping and protecting the two rivers, but you're here to pick a fight. We're in a fight, guys. We're in a fight. What are they doing here? They want Perrin to answer for his crimes. They're throwing the events of Falma at his feet, saying this was also you. And Dane Bornhold cannot let go of the fact that his father is dead, and he thinks it could have been, air quote, a dark friend. Anything that looks suspicious, I don't know. They're calling everyone dark friends, and they can see that. What do you call it?
Zealotry.
Yeah, kind of starting to really flare up in the White Cloaks. Ironically, it's Jeffrey Bornhold back at Falma who warned one of the questioners. And who warned even Child Bayar and others about that type of behavior. Not everyone is a dark friend, and he sees it more and more and more. We have the ability to walk in and say, dark friend, dark friend, dark friend. And it doesn't do us any good. There's not a lot of people in this White Cloak faction that say that, and the one that was saying it was killed at Falma. So
had such a big impact on the trajectory of that group.
Yes. Yeah, big time. So because now they are just, I mean, you can almost you can feel it, you can see it. The fire in Dane Bornhold's eyes really chowed Bayar too for some odd reason. I mean, he hates Perrin.
He's gunning for him.
Yeah. But they're trying to figure out the connection between them and Ordeath and where has he been and what happened to his men. Because if you remember, Ordeath took a faction of them and their cloaks were not as white anymore. They seemed to care less about taking care of their stuff, and so yeah.
And I do, and really, this is kind of it for Perrin in our block of chapters. But I do think it's interesting because if you go back, remember when Perrin is talking to the guy, the whoever it is, the guy who is the guy's name, Will, or that's asking Perrin all the questions. Did you do this? Did you do this? And he's kind of
Fingar, yeah.
Fingar, right? Yeah. Perrin chooses there's one line of internal dialogue where he's talking about what happens with Rand and Mat, and he is very specific in not mentioning that Rand might actually be the Dragon Reborn, because that would scare a lot of people. And so now you have the White Cloaks show up, and they're making all kinds of accusations about, hey, this is what happened at Falma and stuff like that. And they seem to know a lot more about this. And so I'm wondering if that is going to be something that's said later that might cause people who may be a little hesitant around, like maybe the Tinkers or the people in Emond's Field. Because remember, some of that, when Perrin first showed up, some of the people in Emond's Field said he's a dark friend. Right, there was some resistance toward him, and now it's kind of changed. And so this may not happen, but I'm just kind of like, ooh, I again, sometimes I just, from my point of view, reading for the first time, I like to see where is Robert Jordan kind of going, and it's kind of like that's kind of a dynamic I'm kind of seeing is like, okay, well now, so maybe people maybe the White Cloaks will hear kind of say some things that people in the town will hear and be like, well, hold on a second, Perrin, you haven't kind of told us the whole story here. Like,
yeah, what would happen if Rand came back?
I don't think that they know. They obviously don't know that Rand has raised a dragon banner and things.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how information travels through this world, right? It's not instant transmission of knowledge. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts them when they find out that Rand is the Dragon Reborn. And I wonder if we'll ever see Rand come back, to his home village, and how he would be received by a group of people who are, by intents purposes, not exactly informed and can be very superstitious.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and this is sort of this is a stepping stone for them, right? Because you get Perrin and you start to say, there is, like, now we got a lot of Trollocs. We're starting to believe, like, that's not just something we hear about in stories. They're here, right. And we have experience fighting them, which is more than a lot of the other surrounding people. They have more experience with Trollocs than a lot. I mean, most of it's up, at Tarwin's Gap, or, in near the border countries, border nations, so.
Isn't it also interesting? And then we can move on to the next chapter too. You look at our band of characters, and they all pretty much came, and except for the characters we've begun meeting, our group from Emond's Field. Like, you think about the things that they have done and the things that they've seen now, and it's like these are people who have now faced Trollocs and stood in front of queens and gone to the White Tower and all of these things, but they're still so kind of concerned and worried about, like, their history, right, from this tiny little town still has so much sway over them. Like Nynaeve, had kind of like visions of like, oh my God, like, did I abandon the people in Emond's Field and the Women's Circle?
Yeah.
And Perrin coming back here, and he's called, he's called if Perrin goes to another village and somebody calls him a dark friend. I don't think he really just whatever brushes it off. But here it has a little more sway because these are people he grew up with, and even somebody like Mr. Salvir, right, being able to come in and say no, this is how you take care of him and all of that. It's just I kind of like it. I think it's kind of interesting. I think that with a lot of people. I mean, I think yeah,
I think it shows the roots.
Kind of the case.
The roots of the characters, and you're right. They go through a lot of changes, even over 4 books, and we look back, and it's kind of ridiculous. And it's an amazing journey so far. But it's nice to see that the things that we learned at the core values of what this little team had, they stay true to that, and it's still important to them. And the people that we love the most in our lives that we see succeed are people who remember their roots. I think of Dwayne Johnson constantly talking about where he came from and the values that he was taught as a kid, and a lot of people look up to him because of that. And I think it's probably one of the strongest pieces to the characters that Robert Jordan has crafted here in the story.
Yeah. And I also just like, and this, what we see with Perrin here, kind of reminds me of what we saw at the beginning of this book, in which, we don't really see Rand that much in The Dragon Reborn. And then he's having a conversation with Egwene, in which he's now proclaimed as the Dragon Reborn, and he's used the power, and he's literally sitting in the throne of Tyr, and he has Kalendor sitting right next to him. And Egwene kind of comes in, and they kind of revert immediately back to like the way they are for that brief little chapter where they kind of come in and
they still bicker,
and they're teasing each other and bickering, and it's just great. It's great. It's great to see them kind of slip back into that, even just for that brief moment, considering everything else that's going on, because it shows you just how much their characters have evolved and developed.
And another thing is like one of the things that we look for when we read an epic fantasy or like a really good piece of fiction is that we want to know like our characters' main motivations throughout the narrative, right? And what was the motivation for leaving? It was to save Edmund's Field, right? And that is why it is still so important to them to see each other, to think about, what's the, what are they doing? What's the council doing? And they care about where they came from, because at the root of the story, the motivation was to save our home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So good.
Well, yeah, you take some of I know a lot of folks know the Lord of the Rings series, and how much Robert Jordan kind of loved, that and Tolkien's works, for the Shire. I mean, that's what it's for, right? You like this is all, throw it in the fire for the Shire. So, yeah, I get that. I mean, it is a good reminder of who the characters are, who their people are, that they were small, simple people, and they've grown into something much more, but that was needed. And it is all to defend that simple, honest lifestyle that they had at the beginning of the book series. Yeah. Yeah.
The people they loved, for better or for worse, they are stubborn, but they're my stubborn people. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cool to diverge from the Tolkien themes and stuff. How cool would it have been to see the Shire at some midpoint during the journey, the Mordor, someone had split off.
That's right.
We get to do that here. And that's one of the key differences. I mean, obviously it starts out very Tolkien-esque, but it branches out to so much more in its own narrative. And this is another special piece, I think.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, chapter 46, Veils. So this one kind of jumps around a bit. It's a bigger. The next few chapters are big, big chapters here. So as we go into Veils, so we're kind of. Do you have something else?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we're shifting points of view here. We're going to a whole different location, right?
Whole different location. Yeah. We're done with Perrin for today. Yeah. And then we kind of now we're gonna kind of deal with Egwene, and then we move to the Armland Sea. And one of these we just with time we may hold over for extended edition. Yeah.
Well, with this one, I kind of thought if you want to, I can give you a quick just kind of rundown of what happens in this chapter.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I don't know if there's any major takeaways from this, but really we go back to, and this happened in our last batch of chapters where we're back in Tenchico, and we have the character's name I could not say last episode, Egianen. Egianen. Let's get that right. Easy name to pronounce.
Easy name.
Yeah. Egianen.
Egg.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So she is kind of, again, trying to get information. We know that one of the, She's been approached by an unknown Shanchen, member who's seeking truth and is trying to get her to map out some of the city. She's trying to figure out more about the Suldam, and she wants to put an Adam on one of the Suldams, see if she can cause someone to channel. I mean, she's on to a secret here that could really fracture their understanding, their way of life, how they do things, some of the core beliefs that they have in the Shanchen Empire. So, because they kind of believe, like, all those people who are holding the other end of the leash, if they can channel as well, they should be leashed according to their belief system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's they're not worthy of that. So then who could hold do you have to be able to channel to hold the leash? Can it be anyone? I mean, that type of thing. So that's really what she is dealing with, and she's kind of tracking. We got Gelb back here again, who we made a connection with, between Gelb and Bail Doman and his whole group. And so he's been running errands, been doing different things, working for different groups. One time he's working for Egianen. Is he working for someone else now? Looks like he's about to kidnap someone. And she is following these two girls. She's following these two individuals. Turns out that it is Elaine and Nynaeve, right? So she's following them, and they are attacked, and she steps in thinking she's going to help them. She seemed to kind of recognize them. She thought maybe they're about to embrace Saidar, and they don't want to draw out the Black Aja. So what do? Suddenly, Egianen steps in and saves the day. Right? Thugs go away, and we're good. Now, she's invited back to, and I forget where the place is that they're staying. It's a particular. It's an inn of some kind. Yeah, it has a really good. It's one of the chapters, I think. But regardless, like, she's invited back, and they're talking. Tom and Julian are coming in and out. You're talking about Lady Amathera and the new Panarch, and so, some of the politics that are going on here. And like, what are the White Cloaks doing? Why is there so much instability happening? Why do we need to put a new Panarch in? Tom's been checking up on that. Julian's checking up on that. Remember, they're hunting the Black Aja. That's their goal. They're trying to find them, get some of the artifacts back, maybe bring them. What are they going to do? Subdue them? I mean, catch them, report back to the White Tower, whatever it is. They're just seeking them. It's almost like, what do you do when you catch them? I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there's all of that kind of happening. There is a mysterious woman who does enter so it's broken into kind of 3 points of view. But at one point, Egianen will leave, and she's going to come back later and have drinks and tea and whatnot with them on a later date. But a mysterious woman walks in and embraces Saidar. And you got to think to yourself, they're hunting women who can channel. They happen to be Black Aja is who they're hunting. And this person does something to both of the women. And it's really kind of mysterious as to what happens. So I don't know, and I know you're both reading the doc right now. I don't know if it's stated directly as to who this individual is yet. So if we have anybody who is, keeping up exactly with us, I think maybe we save some of that. Am I wrong? I can't remember. That's why I wanted to jump in before we said anything.
So from what I remember, I don't believe we know who this person really is.
Okay.
However, we do know that she's essentially able to get a lot of information.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. They're almost like they're so willing to obey and anything to please, and they want to just, they
just start divulging their plans. All about the Black Aja, all of this stuff just pouring out of their mouths. And then they don't remember a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think I wanted to caution us just in that, like, who is this? We can talk more about it. If I'm wrong and it's actually stated in here, I like to err on this podcast on the side of not spoiling things. Okay. So, people can get upset about that.
I'm checking it out and rereading again.
All right. Well, let's I say let's go to 47, because that's like the big sort of event. And then maybe we'll save kind of 48 and 49 go together. It's the Rand chapter. Maybe we'll save those for extended.
Okay. Sure.
Extended edition, and then we can kind of finish up here with 47, because
I mean, we're hitting a big home run with this one. I mean, this is
big, right?
Stop the stilling.
Stop.
Yeah. So all right. So we get 2 point of views this chapter. Suan Sanche and Min, right? And every time all I hear when I say Suan Sanche, like, yes, the way it's spelled is Suan, Shan Chan. It's like all I can think of now every time I read it. But right, so Swain, right, she's in her office checking the day-to-day runnings of the White Tower. Her habit had always been to check 1 or 2 things at random each day. She notices that Danielle, or Danelle, whichever way, I can't remember, but it's a young brown sister, has appeared not to notice the 2 large numbers of builders that had been hired to rebuild part of the library. She's like, they could build an entire library with that many men. So she's frustrated that she can't concentrate because she has a message from Moraine, right? The sling has been used. The shepherd holds the sword.
Let's
and nothing since.
Wow.
Once the hall had learnt that somebody had taken Kalendor, they voted unanimously and with no need for arm twisting that the White Tower should try to guide him. She keeps the message in a warded box along with other messages. One says that the novice who brought Min to see Swan is missing. She was actually killed by an unknown channeler. Then you have there's a man in Gilladon who is preaching the glories of the dragon reborn. He is Massima.
Preach it now. Preach
the
it.
Shinaran soldier who has traveled with Rand in the Great Hunt, right? Mazrim Taim has not been found. Tension between Ardaman and Terabon is rising once more, and ships have gone missing in the Arth Ocean. 2 Aes Sedai are missing in Ilion and 1 in Camelin, while a lot of her eyes and ears are silent. Suddenly.
Yep.
The door to her study opens, and more than a dozen women strode into her study. They are led by Eliada, who includes several Reds. Danelle, who was right, she was worried about earlier, of the brown Aja, Jolene of the green Aja, Shamaran of the yellow Aja, Alvarian of the white. From later chapters, that's something in the thing I shouldn't have seen. Okay, but it just gives names to people.
Yes,
sorry,
yes.
That's in the thing. Okay,
only group not represented, and it's fine. You're good. Jay, you stopped yourself.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's
just
okay. Not there.
It's just a few people who are there, and they're named in the summary on the wiki. See, this is sometimes what happens to me, but it just says their names. I don't know who they are. It doesn't say anything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Only the blue Aja is not represented, which is, as we know, the Aja of Moraine.
Right.
So Suan orders Eliada to leave before I make you wish that you were an ignorant novice again.
Jeez, man.
But she stays, and Eliada takes the striped the strip stole from Shuain's shoulders. You were never fit for it. Without her notice, Shuan had been shielded, and Eliada weaves flows of air to bind her, crushing her arms to her side. Alvarian looks though the papers on Suan's desks and tries to open the warded box, but it flared in a ball of flame. She had not noticed the delicate ward. Eliada tells Swan that the hall met earlier, not all the sisters, but enough to meet our laws were present, and they voted to remove her from the Amerlin seat.
Major.
I mean, so
how you gonna do her like that?
Well, here's the thing, Jimmy. Let me ask you: when you first read this, what were you thinking? Because this is the Amerlin seat, who we're thinking is like the most powerful person. I remember saying this person's gonna be there in the end to lead us in the battle.
Suan's one of my favorite characters. I like her backstory, being on the Fisher boat, the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
So this, to me, in the first 4 books, this was the most monumental moment for me. I just really it kind of shocked me. It kind of shocked me because I kind of expected her to be like, "Oh, you're going to try to remove me," and then just like boom, blast them.
Right.
Not what happens.
Nope.
At all.
No, not at all. I mean, it's almost like again. I think this was written beforehand, but when you remember, I can't believe I'm about to make a Harry Potter reference here. Somebody stop me. But like when they come in to arrest Dumbledore, and he does the whole Phoenix, baby. He says Phoenix.
Yeah.
Just
spoilers, bro.
You haven't read it.
I'm kidding.
I stop it right now. You are unbelievable. But no, yeah, it's pretty interesting, and yeah, it's noted there are no blues. Her own Aja probably would not have done, like, there would have been talks. There would have been, like, she maybe would have seen it coming. There definitely was some secrecy, some plotting going on behind her back here, right?
They wouldn't have voted against her either. Right,
exactly. And you can see she's looking at that number count. Like, there's too many builders here for a particular building. She has that passing thought. She's going to have to get after that brown sister later and tell, like, this is wrong. These numbers are wrong. Turns out that's the brown sister that walks in, and she should have been paying a little more attention to the finer details. And she was looking at bigger strokes, waiting for Moraine, putting all of her trust there, and she's caught. You know, really, when you think about what Elida does here, they don't know what Suan knows. They think that important information is being held from them concerning the Dragon Reborn, and that secret correspondence are going on. You did not rope Moraine in. You did go to Shinar, and you didn't do a darn thing up there. Like, what was the whole point of the Amerlin seat making a big, I don't know, that was a big move to go up there to really take the whole kind of group up to the Borderlands. And then you had a lot has gone wrong under her in this short amount of time that we've been with her, right? The Black Aja, the whisperings to that are just growing like crazy. She's let Accepted go after them. I mean, I don't know that they know that necessarily, but that's definitely not a good thing. We know that, the reader. Moraine was not brought back in, and she's been gone too long. They do trust Varen, right? So Varen was somebody. Now Varen's in the Two Rivers. Okay, so that ally is not there at the White Tower. So who's she got? I mean, she's got Leanne, who's out her keeper, but I mean, we find out what happens to her.
Yeah.
Well, the girls are her ally, and they're all gone.
They're all gone. Yeah.
Not that I don't think the three of them, as pretty much novices, could take on like full, like 12 full Aes Sedai, but they could certainly help.
Yeah, this is still a device. So, and we find this is not something that was just like overwhelmingly a majority of people said. I mean, it's by a narrow margin that this happens. I mean, to leave out all of the blues and to not have them there is that's right. Interesting. This is not going to be
it's a coup.
It's a coup.
It's
what it is.
Yeah, it's
someone
it's a coup,
stop distilling.
All right. Well, let's get to the second part of this chapter, because then we basically get to kind of see what's going on from somebody else's point of view. And that's Min, who we haven't seen in a while, really. We know that Min's been hanging out there. So Min enters the tower after going to collect some silk, right? That Laris claimed was just the color, to set off Elmendria's complexion, right? So nothing super important. But she comes in and there's no guards at the gate. No gate to the tower guards were ever left unguarded. She walks into the ground. There's a group of men running into the clearing. They're all men who had come to the tower for training. And Gawain is leading them. Gawain tells men to leave, get off the grounds. It's dangerous. Suan was deposed in the morning. He says that Hamar is going to try and free her. There's fighting everywhere. Gawain and the younglings run toward the tower, and sounds of fighting can be heard. And all I hear when I hear younglings in basically an Order 6 type situation is, wow. Here we go again.
Here we go. Wow.
Anyway, Min is upset, right? She doesn't know which side he's fighting for. It's basically chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now becomes kind of switches back to Swan's point of view. She's in the dungeons and she has been stilled.
I had to read it twice.
It's crazy.
Intense.
Crazy. She's not just locked up. I mean,
and it's actually
severed.
It's not right. And even just reading it in the summary doesn't even do it justice in the way that they describe it, because she's trying to use the power, and it's almost, it's not even like she's like, oh, I've been stilled. I mean, she's trying to use it and nothing happens. Then she comes to the realization,
yeah,
I've been stilled. Like, I mean, it's almost like it's not even just like it's shocking to her. Like, oh my God.
She went from the most powerful woman in the world.
Yeah.
To this.
Yes. Yeah, so some of this right here, I kind of have some of it, which is, she could not help the feeling for her great serpent ring, or feeling for her great serpent ring. So they've taken that from her. So her ring is gone. It was no longer on her finger. Not that she expected it. She thought she remembered when they had ripped it off. Things had grown hazy after a time. Thankfully, blessedly hazy. But she remembered telling them everything, eventually. Almost everything. The triumph of holding back like a scrap here, a bit there. In between howlings and answers, eager to answer if they only would stop, even for a little while, if only. She wrapped her arms around herself to stop her shudders. It did not work very well. I will remain calm. I am not dead. I must remember that above everything else, I am not dead. And then you have Leanne there saying, Mother, are you awake? And they start to kind of talk about the things that happened. Right. She feels this guilt that Leanne has also been stilled, her keeper,
right?
Who by the way, didn't know nearly as much as one would think a keeper would know.
Yeah, and I like the Wheel of Time wiki does a really good job of kind of describing severing, right? Being severed. And it says, severing a person from the ability to channel is considered by most to be worse than death. A severed channeler can still feel Saidin or Sidar's presence, but they no longer seize or embrace it. It is often described to be as if part of the channeler itself has been cut away. In men, the experience of being severed is described as similar to castration. Without the ability to use the one power within themselves, those who are severed usually lose the will to live and will often die to various or direct causes connected to this. Death after being severed is commonly caused by suicide, refusing to eat or drink, or simply become too weak to continue living.
Does that not kind of sound like the first week of keto for Ez?
No,
he's cut off from the power of carbs.
I was severed, my friend.
He was severed,
and so you think about why Tom Maryland is so distrustful of the Aes Sedai, right?
I mean, Suwon's not innocent here. I mean, I feel bad for her. I really like her character, but I mean, she's been at the head of a lot of stillings of, for all intents and purposes, innocent men.
Absolutely.
And to know that the grief and the impact that's had on people is pretty intense. So I just it's interesting. It's interesting because now she's living the horrors that she has created for others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about those crimes, air quote crimes. Some people are going to be not happy with that, but you also have the stuff that has been going on since we started this book. And just us sort of watching the way she's handled the White Tower. This was something that where it's built up in our mind that it couldn't go through something like this. It's meant to be like an example that we look up to. And here we are. We're watching all the plotting and the scheming and stuff. And we thought that Swan and Moraine had it all together. And they don't.
Nope, not at all.
And, so... it's unfortunate. There's supposed to be an order that works together, right? I mean, they have causes, they have different, like responsibilities inside of each of their ajas and things. But yeah, I mean, it's because of the secrets. It's because of all the secrecy and the not knowing and just, I mean,
and identity politics.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Different color. I mean,
Which Aja are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It starts to really matter what color Aja you are.
Yeah.
And what you represent and what you think is correct, how to treat the men with the power, but also just in general. It's interesting. It's a major moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think we'll save the next 2 chapters for extended edition, which are both Rand chapters. And a quick kind of summary in there is Rand's getting fed up a little bit with just about everybody.
Yes, he is.
especially the Aiel and especially Moraine.
He's getting pestered and jerked around every which way, and he's had enough.
Right.
He's had enough. Yeah.
He's had enough. So that's kind of what there's a lot some good Rand and Avienda kind of conversations in there. So that's kind of where I think it's a pretty good place to leave that as we get close to about 2 hours on this podcast.
Let's go.
Woo!
Well, hey, I'm telling you, this is, again, we just try to touch on some of the major events, and then we just reactions, thoughts, commentary. It's such a fun series, and I've been saying to Sir Matt and Sir Jimmy, you know this, like we were talking just yesterday on Bend the Knee. Like, I've been so excited for Matt to get to some of these points and for us to now be able to go back and talk more about them. So on your first read through, there is so much to take in. Like, honestly, I remember when I was reading this, I said, okay, I got so much to keep up on in the 2 Rivers and Rand, and now you're going to throw Tanchico and the White Tower on me too.
Yeah,
that's 4 different things in this batch of chapters that you're trying to tackle and keep track of. And Robert Jordan trusts you. He says, don't worry, my writing style is I'm going to remind you of things. These are going to build. I think he had to drop these in here. I don't know. It'd be interesting to go back and do a study of like when he had what written, and did he need to move some of these chapters earlier in here to make it make more sense to set things up. I mean, Jimmy, you were talking about the information and how it's shared and how that affects the story, and it does. It in this situation. So yeah. I don't know. It's cool. I love it.
Awesome.
I'm excited to. Finish this up. This book is huge, and it's full of good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's one more part, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're nearing
4.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we will be. What's book 5? Lords of Chaos?
No, that is Fires of Heaven.
Fires of Heaven.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is where I have stopped reading. So I guess I can give an interesting perspective real quick. So I read the first 4 books, and then I got about halfway through book 5, and I decided to stop and wait for this podcast to catch up because I enjoy Wheel of Time the most when I'm enjoying it with Heroes of the Horn. Check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. But and subscribe on YouTube. But I do want to say that. So this is like the second time of me, reading Shadow Rising, and I can tell you that I'm enjoying it immensely more on a type of reread, right? And I'm picking up things from listening to Sir Matt and Sir Ez, and it has just really enriched the experience for me. And I'm so glad because book 4 was not my favorite on my first reread, but as I dove into this and covering these chapters and rereading them before I came on today, it's just like, man, there is so much here that is so deep, and there's so many connections. And hearing Ez, someone who's obviously read the series a bunch of times, kind of give his perspective on things, and then Matt and me seem to have very similar, very, very similar ideas of where the series is going, who's who, and it's just a lot of fun. And I gotta say, like you were talking about how much information there is, you get the White Tower thrown at you, and then you have the Tinker stuff going on in Evansville, all the stuff, and it's cool being able to reread this a second time now and see all the information I missed out on. It's really rounding out the experience for me.
Yeah. And now that I've hit towards kind of getting towards the end of this book, I mean, 10 chapters to go, and I think it's possible because right now I think I have this as my third of the 4. I think I have as number 3. With the Great Hunt being number 1, just because again the ending to the Great Hunt is like so amazing.
It's one of the best.
I mean, it's so good that I'm like, oh my god, like
Matt with the horn.
that I'm just, and then I think Eye of the World, because it's just the pacing of Eye of the World's really good. I mean, I think maybe a little dip there in the middle, but other than that, it's straight through. It's great, so good. And then I think I have this above Dragon Reborn of the 4 in my thing. But could it overtake Eye of the World? I don't know. It's hard to say because Eye of the World's like the first book and it's like so iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but maybe.
I mean,
just
once I get through more, when some of the events, like, oh, I can look back and point to that and be like, well, that was big. I mean, anything. I think it's possible that anything could jump around. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like in Harry Potter when we like the first time you read through it, you're like, God, Chamber of Secrets was like pretty boring, and then you get to the end and you're like, whoa, Chamber of Secrets was huge. Like, I mean, it was like, it was a big deal.
Huge, yeah.
Well, I think I'll say this. I mean, just hold on, because the dragon is riding the winds of time.
Right.
And stuff will move faster than you can blink.
Right, because really, it seems like there's the Rand stuff. So I guess kind of maybe it's predictions for the end of this book.
Yeah.
Like Rand stuff, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. He's gonna leave. So where's he gonna go? I guess is kind of the thing. I mean, for me, if he's like, I'm done in the IO Waste, I mean, it seems logical to me. He'd probably go back to Tyr, because that's where he was kind of ruling and stuff. I mean, we'll see what happens there. And obviously there's going to be a big battle with Perrin. So then at the same time, it seems like something's going to go down at the White Tower. So that seems to be like where the two big focuses of the end of this book are going to be.
Yeah. The battle, the fall of the tower, and what is Rand going to do?
What's he going to do? Hey, I'll say this. As you go into this next batch, watch the eyes. Okay?
Golden eyes.
Rand's been saying it. Perrin's got him. Okay?
Yeah.
Pay attention to everyone's eyes. Okay?
Okay.
It's important stuff.
Woo! All right, guys. Well, Jimmy, thanks for coming on, man.
I mean, this is an absolute pleasure. I mean, I love experiencing the Wheel of Time, and it's the best when I'm experiencing with Heroes of the Horn.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So, guys, where can everybody find everybody on the internet? Jimmy, let you go first.
So you can find me at the Fantasy Network on YouTube. Just right around 1,400 subscribers now, but I do a lot of book reviews. I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. And I also throw out a lot of Stephen King in there as well. But fantasy being the mainstay, obviously Fantasy Network. I plan on doing some Wheel of Time reviews, having these two gentlemen on, hopefully, to just do a full spoiler talk review of the first few books that I have done. But yeah, come over there if you are looking for stuff to read in between, doing Wheel of Time or whatever else you read. I'd love to have you. And you can find me on Twitter at the Flockavelli, which you can get that link on my YouTube if you'd like. And I'm always tweeting about bookish, fantasy related stuff there. Definitely going to have ideas and thoughts on the Wheel of Time show as it progresses. So,
absolutely. where can people find you on the internet?
Well, hey, you might be finding me over on the Fantasy Network soon, for crying out loud. It seems like
I hope so.
We got the invite there to go over and talk some Wheel of Time, so I am excited for that. And I also wanted to say thank you to Jimmy too, because it has been fantastic to have you on, and I love your channel, and I really do hope folks will go check you out. And there is more Wheel of Time content coming there. You can find me at womprat_2m. Make sure you go check me out on Twitter. That's where I'm at. I'm on Instagram. I don't really post it. The stories are good, guys. What do you think? I mean, I do a good job with the stories on Instagram. I try to do.
You're hitting up the Instagram story game.
Yeah, the story game is strong. I'll say this as well. I was talking to Lady Heather, and just this past week while Matt was out, I started up the Heroes of the Horn Facebook group. And I do want to make a disclaimer right now. I know people are going to hit this a year later from now. People are going to find the podcast and what have you, and then jump over maybe to the Facebook group. So we kind of talked like it might have to be I can't keep every spoiler out of there. You know what I mean? I think we're going to try. People are going to make an honest effort to keep it spoiler-free, mark stuff, if you will. But as the podcast progresses, you know what I mean? A year from now, we'll be a couple more books ahead. So as people catch up to it, it's always going to be changing there. So you really kind of have to say it's a spoiler group. But if you don't want any spoilers, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go to the wiki. You saw what happened in this episode. Sometimes you're reading the wiki and even one line comes up and you're like, well, daggone it. I mean,
there was something one time when I was reading and you're like, I got to edit this out because I'm reading from our summary and And I was like, crap, we don't.
Yeah, it almost happened this episode too. That's why I kept saying mysterious character. Let's not say who that character is.
Okay, yeah.
Mysterious character. But yeah, we did a good job. I think we did a great job this episode. But yeah, like, you know what I mean? With that Facebook group, I'm pumped. People are in there introducing themselves, talking about when they read the series, how long they read it, favorite books, you know, things like that, favorite characters, you know, that kind of stuff. Surface level things I think are a lot of fun, and people want to do that as you get ready for the show. And if you go in there and we're talking show stuff, you can hashtag things by topic, and it's fun. I know people like Facebook and they want to do a Facebook group. We have a great BTK group sharing memes, things like that. So, but just know that it probably will be spoiler, and there's nothing I can do right now to stop that. I mean, it's not going to be like Memory of Light spoiler. I doubt that. I doubt that's gonna pop up in there. And you know, I hope no one really does that yet. But you know, I don't know. Matt, thoughts on the Facebook group? We talked about it a little bit, but
I mean, we talked on the phone about it really quick. I think it was like Thursday, or I don't honestly remember, because literally last week for me is like a blur, because didn't have power for like 8 days. So it was crazy. One of the things we decided is, you know, it's a lot easier. Like the Wheel of Time Reddit, I really like, because they're really good about marking stuff spoilers over there. And one of the things you can do on Reddit is you can actually block things out that you have to click on, and so it makes it really good. The unfortunate thing with Facebook is really the only way you can kind of mark something as spoilers is you mark it as, you say like spoiler, and then you like hit enter like 40 times or
to get the see more,
to get the read more. And it would just be too hard to kind of keep that, because somebody may post something and mean it to be, you know, not spoiler, and then, you know, they didn't do it correctly or whatever. It's different on mobile as it is on Facebook, and so it ends up being spoiler. And then, you know, it's somebody may post something and be like, well, this isn't spoiler, and then it kind of, you know, could turn into an argument or whatever. And so it'd be way too hard on Facebook. And so I said, no, we just make it a full spoiler group. My experience with a lot of groups, and I'm in a lot of them, even other podcast groups, History of Westeros, big Game of Thrones one.
Absolutely.
More often than not on Facebook, what a lot of people are doing is they're saying like, hey, and especially once the show hits, I mean, a lot of our Game of Thrones stuff in our that's a big group. We have like 1,000 people in there. A lot of it is people saying like, oh, look, I bought this cool like blanket or whatever, which is great, and we love that. That's great. Like, I mean, we love that stuff. Or it's like, hey, news, hey, this is gonna be in it and stuff like that. So, but we do have people that post in our groups. We have a couple of Facebook groups, our Hyperspace Hangout group, a lot of that stuff. You know, a lot of that is when it is discussions, is somebody will say, hey, look, what do you think about this? And that's just kind of, you know what it is. And so it will be spoilers. It's just the way you have to do it.
Do we think it's going to be like major? I don't think people are going to be in there like, let's detailed talk about the end of the series. I don't think that's going to happen. But at the same time, we have to, as the creators say, that it contains spoilers. So be careful, because it's supposed to be, we're doing a as close as we can non-spoiler podcast. And the YouTube content, by the way, we can easily say at the front of that, hey, spoilers coming up through The Shadow Rising, and that's pretty easy. You can click off of that, and that's been fun to do with Matt over there. It's different from the podcast, but this, we're trying to get Matt's authentic sort of reaction as we go through the series. So yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, well, you can find me anywhere on the internet at Super Gains Bros. It's all one word. Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. That's my YouTube channel. So anywhere you can find me there. So, all right, guys. Well, with that, we do. Let me find here on our doc the outro.
Sir Jimmy knows how to take us out of a podcast. I mean, I did this the other day. I was in the same spot you were. Where's the daggone doc?
Where's it?
I am ready.
He is ready. I'd say, Sir Jimmy,
take it over.
Listen, it's time to say farewell. But we do want to thank you for answering the call. In our next episode, we will be discussing The Shadow Rising Part 8, Chapters 50 until the end of the book.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a message at thehornofvalir@gmail.com.
We will see you soon, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.